Hey, what's up everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. Today we're doing the what's next on undefeated lightweight contender William Zepeda following his dominating 6th round TKO victory over Mercito Gesta as they competed in a lightweight clash on September 16th in the main event of a DAZN card. Before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel. So back to Zepeda, it was just a good dominant victory that we should have got. Both these guys scored victories over Joseph Diaz Jr. last year, but Zepeda had a more convincing, one-sided victory in his win, where what's his name, it was where Gesta got a split decision win, and that separated what you saw the favorite and the underdog heading into this one. I mean, a lot of people were looking at Zepeda as a sizable favorite, and he proved why. Threw a shitload of punches, dominated the action, and stopped the veteran Gesta in only 6 rounds, and is still undefeated and rolling now. So now the big question is, what's next for Zepeda? Well, Zepeda's ranked number 2 in the WBA. That's his highest ranking right now, right behind Isaac Cruz. There's a lot of people that believe that Tank Davis is going to fight Cruz next, but we'll get into all that as we run through the top 10 for Zepeda, who's knocking on the door of a potential title shot very, very soon. So let's run through the top 10 and see what's possibly coming up for the undefeated Zepeda next. We start with Devin Haney, the reigning undisputed champion at lightweight. Not gonna happen. So I think Haney is moving up to 140 in his next fight for pro grade, and even if he were to lose that fight, I think unless it's a major fight at 135, he's not gonna take the chance, and Zepeda doesn't have a big enough name, so I don't see that one happening. Next is Vasily Lomachenko. I don't see this one either, at least not next. Lomachenko, top-ranked guy anyways, so it'd be tough to make the fight, but he's, if he comes back, it looks like Kambosos, possibly Emmanuel Navarrete, or a bigger fight is on the radar for him, so I don't see Zepeda being an option next. And there's Gervonta Tank Davis. I don't think Tank's interested in a guy like Zepeda, who throws a lot of punches and also has power. I think Tank is either going to fight Isaac Cruz, or he's looking at a bigger fight. There's been talks of a catchweight fight with Keith Thurman on the radar right now, but that's not confirmed. Again, that's just talk right now. But Davis's people did say that something big is coming. I think the smallest name in terms of guys like on Zepeda's level would be a rematch with Cruz, because I think Tank wants to knock Cruz out in a rematch, and that's the only reason I think he would take on Cruz. And they're also with the PBC, so Zepeda not an option, and the WBA is not going to order a mandatory either. Then you got Shakur Stevenson. I mean, I think Stevenson's really down to fight anybody, but these two guys aren't really lined up in their governing bodies with high rankings. You got Stevenson's fighting for the vacant WBC title next against Edwin De Los Santos. To be honest, I think Stevenson would be down to fight Zepeda if Zepeda wanted that smoke, and Zepeda might. So I think that is a possibility. I think Stevenson wants the big names, but he'll fight anybody, and Zepeda, he might get avoided enough to where he'll fight Shakur for the title if it gets him a title shot. So I do believe that fight is a possibility in the near future. Stevenson's fighting for the vacant title in November. I think he's going to be the new WBC champion, and I definitely can see him and Zepeda locking horns for that title in the first half of next year. So we'll see what happens. Then you got George Kambosos Jr. Didn't look good in his last fight, but he looked good enough to where he's the number 3 contender in the IBF, and Lomachenko sitting at number 2. So basically, he's got an opportunity to compete in a final eliminator, and he won't have to go through a guy like Zepeda. Kambosos is just looking for a big name, and rightfully so. He's earned that to some degree, and I don't think he's looking at a guy like Zepeda next. Then there's Isaac Cruz. Cruz is looking at a title shot with Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, if that fight doesn't happen, I do believe the WBA could order Cruz and Zepeda to compete in a final eliminator. I do believe that is possible. So, kind of hold your breath for that one to see what Tank decides to do next, because if Tank is going to fight catchweights and doesn't really want to fight at 135 all that much, he might end up giving up the regular version of the belt, and you never know, Cruz and Zepeda would be an all-out war, and they would be fighting for the vacant WBA title, and that is a turn of events that could really happen, because Cruz is #1 in the WBA and Zepeda is #2. So right now, I do believe that's very possible with the status of Gervonta Davis and with the status of Devin Haney, the undisputed champion. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Then there's Jermaine Ortiz. I wouldn't completely rule it out, but given they're with different promotions, I don't think Top Rank or Golden Boy is going to rush to the front of the line to make that fight happen. So I'm going to say no to that. Raymond Muratalla, kind of the same thing. They might even want to protect, Top Rank might want to protect Muratalla even more because he's undefeated in his style. So, and Zepeda, you know, he kind of is in a better position than Muratalla right now in terms of ranking wise. So he might just be looking for something else too, so I don't see that one. Gustavo Lemos, I mean, he was in my top 10. He's probably going to be dropping out soon. He gave up his mandatory position in the IBF. So who the hell knows what's going on with him? I saw this fight as a possibility because they're both kind of in the same boat, but now I don't see it happening. And then Zaur Abdullayev, he's ranked in the WBA rankings. He defeated Jorge Linares. Linares works with the Zone. I mean, I think it's very possible that you could see William Zepeda and Zaur Abdullayev competing in a showdown, a final eliminator of some sort. So with all that, I really do believe there's a couple potential options in the top 10 that make sense for Zepeda. And then one guy that I have out of the top 10 but is highly regarded is Frank Martin, the undefeated lightweight contender. He's ranked #3 in the WBA. So if the fight with Cruz happens, Cruz and Tank Davis, they could hold a final eliminator for Frank Martin and William Zepeda to compete. So Martin passed on the Shakur Stevenson fight. But I really believe, as in terms of top 10 guys, I think a WBC title fight with Shakur Stevenson in the first part of next year, very possible, because both guys are kind of avoided. And then I can also see an Isaac Cruz final eliminator because he's #1, and say Tank Davis decides he doesn't want to fight Isaac Cruz next, or he's not going to fight him. Excuse me, the WBA might order a final eliminator between Cruz and Zepeda in an all-Mexican showdown, which would be great. So I could see that being possible. And then I also believe a fight with Zaur Abdullayev is very possible as well, because he's ranked in the WBA. It's actually his highest ranking is in the WBA. So Zepeda has options. I think he really needs to wait around a couple months and see what's going to go down before he decides, because he's right there knocking on the door of a title shot. And I hope he gets it, because he's an entertaining fighter, and he's fighting in the deepest and best division in boxing, in my opinion, 135. So we'll see what happens, but that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on undefeated lightweight contender William Zepeda. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.